Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we're back with another kind of beginner's video. I'm not going to label it a beginner's guide part, whatever the fuck part we would be on, but it is geared more towards newer players who are unfamiliar with the game, and while watching my video, you're very confused because I'm talking about a great many different things and aspects of the game itself, and you just started 2 days ago and you have no idea what the hell I'm saying or what I'm referring to. So this video, I have made a list of some of the most common terms that I use that may be confusing to some players, and I will give you examples of what I'm talking about as I talk about them. So this video, may or may not be long, I don't know, but if you are confused by some terms, then this is the video for you. So I'm going to try and go as quickly as possible while still giving a somewhat decent explanation of what I'm talking about. But with that said, let's start firing them off. Alright, so starting off, protection gauge refers to your gauge right here that you use to activate your protection skill, whatever it may be. It varies, depending on who your protector is. It can build up twice, so you can have 2 full meters, so you can use it twice in a row if it is filled up. Skill points refer to, down here, your skill points that you need to use skills for. Some units raise the cap, that's why I'm at 300. Some do not. Some immediately give you points to, as soon as you use the protector. It varies across the board, but if I'm talking skill points, it's talking about this right here. Alt gauge is referring to your alt, your special ability, your nuke, whatever you want to call it. It can also build up twice. Using 1 bar is a normal alt. For certain characters that are EX characters, they will have the ability to use 2 full bars to do an even more powerful alt. When I refer to EX characters, they are characters with the very special background who belong to forces, who are new premium summonable units, and who have the ability to use an EX alt right here. EX Soul of Combos. Traits are different specific things per unit that can activate based on a number of different scenarios. You do need dupes of a unit to be able to activate traits. 1 dupe and 3 dupes. First dupe, the 3rd dupe activates it, and it becomes a little bit better, whatever that trait may be. When I refer to the big 3, it is this Earth Melum, this Dark Melum, and this Gazel. And because they have the most important trait of them all, which we just got done talking about, and that is giving you protection gauge on turn 1. So as soon as you start the fight, if you have all 3 of these units at least level 92 or higher, they will give you half a starting protection gauge in every single fight, unless you're in Valor Cup. We call them the big 3. They will remain in your front line for pretty much almost every single fight imaginable, and they're very important. Perfect example right here. We start the fight turn 1, we have over half a protector because we have the big 3 in frontline support slots giving us this extra protection gauge. Next up, orbs. These things down here. Green orbs, orange orbs, blue orbs. Doesn't matter. Alt orbs. Orbs refer to these things, these little circles with the characters' faces. Battle units are the units that are actually participating in a fight. You can have up to 5 of them at any point. There are support units that will go underneath each character, as we will see very quickly right here. The protector is your team leader. Dokkan, it's your leader skill, and whatever terminology comes from any other gacha game. This is your protector. These are your battle units. This is your protector support unit. You can swap them out freely. These are your battle support units. Again, since traits are active, the big 3 is here. These 2, have differing traits. They have different stats. You get a stat buff every time you match a color. If you don't match a color, then, like right here, it doesn't glow, and you don't get extra stats. A stacking team refers to a long-form fight character who is dependent on using multiple protection skills to stack effects. This Vel's right here stacks 12% on Warrior's Mind and Dragon Hakai characters, and that is unlimited. So the more times you use Velzard protection skill, you will stack higher and higher and higher, more attack. The same thing with this Diablo. Instead of stacking an effect on a character, he stacks a debuff on the enemy forever and ever and ever and ever. So stacking teams are built for 8 turns or more of you doing many, many different things and stacking up effects as quickly as possible. A burst team refers to a short form fight, 5 turns or less, where you're meant to do a lot of damage very, very quickly. This Frey right here, she converts all of your orbs to green. She gives you guaranteed crits. She gives you 40 points. So you can use low-cost skills to do a lot of damage very quickly. Burst team. A defense team is consisting of characters that give you, obviously, a lot of defense. This Raphael right here, he gives you guard. That's great, cuts your damage. He seals the attack and pierce and crit on all characters. He gives you extra resistance. These are defense-oriented skills for a defense-oriented team. You just want to turtle and not take a lot of damage and either whittle them down over time, or with this team, you're going to kill them with, other effects. When a fight wants you to use a very specific type of skill, whether it be a defense skill, which is shaped like this, an attack skill shaped like this, a body and spirit changing skill is probably the one that's going to confuse you the most. It is this pointy star looking one, and then a magic changing skill are these shapes. And if you go to your characters, all of their skills will be those shapes. So this Megamine has a magic skill, 2 magic skills. This Violet has an attack skill and a magic skill. This Blanc has an attack skill and a magic skill, and all down the record, attack and magic. Let's see, where's that Raphael again? Raphael has different ones. We've got 2 body and spirit changing skills, as denoted by the little pointy stars. So if you get confused over which kind of skill you need to use for a specific mission, you can determine it by the shape of the skill. A buff skill is a skill that buffs you, that gives you extra power to something. Could be anything. This is a buff skill right here. It gives you extra ult damage. A Soul of Combos is an ult, 80%. She increases her own magic attack. That is also a buff. We have 2 buffs right here, right there. Violet increases all allies' magic attack, 100%. That's a buff. This Blanc, weakness strike. Synergy resistance down is a debuff, so we have a buff and a debuff combined right here. A debuff is an effect that takes over and is placed on the enemy, or is put on you. You could also be debuffed and buffed just as much as you could, they can be. So if I'm talking about this kind of buff or that kind of buff, pierce rate and pierce power, that's a buff. When I talk about an ability board, that is this tab right here on any character, the ability release. This is the ability board. This is your hidden potential system. This is your whatever Star Rail and Genshin calls it, like the dupe kind of things where you get more stats. This is your ability board. The EX board is special because it requires extra special things. So some characters have, will have this. Other characters, it's not a requirement, but a lot of, you want to maximize your units. So normal ability board, EX board is the terminology that I would typically use for this. A DPS unit would be a unit that is primarily there to do a lot of damage, whether it be a short-term damage on a burst team or a long-term stacking team damage. They're meant to do the bulk, and they're meant to kill the enemy. Any unit can be a DPS if you force them to be. You can kill anything with anything if you put your mind to it and you have the box. But certain characters who buff themselves, their own synergy power, their own, magic attack, like this Megamine, these are what I would consider DPS units because they have their own selfish buff. Now, Guy right here, he is not a traditional DPS unit because he does not have a selfish self buff. He has a team-wide buff here and a team-wide buff here. It doesn't mean he's not a DPS unit because, giving him this and that makes him do a lot of damage. It's just that traditionally, he does not have a self buff like, let's say this Shinsha right here. She gives herself an attack buff right here. That would make her a self-buffing unit. That would make her a DPS because she has a lot of damage on these skills. Meanwhile, a support unit would be someone who gives buffs to another unit. So again, this Violet right here, she has a team-wide magic attack buff. That is a support trait. This orb change is also reminiscent of a support unit. This Blanc gives weakness strike and debuffs the enemy. That is a support skill. This Aqua, all allies pierce and all allies pierce power. That is a support buff. So DPS units have selfish skills that help them to do more damage. Support units do other things to help the DPS do more damage. Orb changers, very important in this game. Guy is an orb changer. He is a special converter because he changes 2 green orbs and 1 orange orb into 3 blues. That is not typical. Most of the time, you'll see, you'll see this guild, this free-to-play guild. He changes 2 oranges to 2 blues. They could be 1 orange to 1 blue. They could be a green to a blue. They could be a green to an orange. There are multiple different ways that you can orb change, and it is just based on how you want to build your team and how that team needs to operate, because not every stage in the game will allow you to use every single type of orb efficiently. Some stages nerf oranges, so you don't want to use orange orbs, so you want to convert away from oranges into an unnerfed color like blues or greens, so forth and so forth. An orb stealer unit, which I don't have on here, is a unit that takes orbs away from another. So this Hinata transfers another random character's soul cards, which are orbs, times 3 to herself. So if Hinata has 3 orbs and there are 3 other random orbs on the field, you use this skill and you will take those 3 and she will all of a sudden have 6 orbs to herself. An octagram unit is a original designed character for this game. They have very specific purposes, and they are generally sometimes doing very special things. So if I say octagram guy, well, we have a few guys. We have this guy, which is octagram guy. And then we have, fire guy up here. So there's 2 guys right there. There's also this version of guy. So there's 3 different versions of guy. So we want to differentiate. This one is octagram. And you get them from the octagram shop down here using octagram emblems. These things, which you will collect through missions and rewards and such things. There is a cost to getting each of these characters. They are not cheap. It takes a while to get a lot of these, but these are octagram units because they come from the Octagram Bazaar and they are bought with octagram emblems. When I say use rewind or after the rewind, it is referring to this specific skill on this specific character, the masked hero, the time traveler. Destroy fate. Make another move. Turn stays the same. So if you are on turn 5 and you use this skill and you send all of your orbs, it's going to rewind time and it's still going to be turn 5, but you have another chance to use more orbs, use more skills. And so it just gives you a double turn in the span of 1. So it gives you extra time to set things up, to get more gauge, to get more ult, to get more points. It is the only skill in the game that does this, which is why I make everybody buy the masked hero when she's available for free, because she is the only unit that can do it, and it's a very powerful skill. Tower. When I say tower, it refers to Loop Loop, the Tower of Isis. This is where you get Isis coins. This is where you get flames for gear. This is where you do fights and challenges. This is Tower when I refer to it. Crystals are very easy. It's your magic crystals. It's your premium currency that you use to summon for different units, and you get through mission rewards and such things. You can also use Daddy's credit card to buy some. This game follows a monthly pattern of focusing on one specific team, giving out units for that team, and then the next month moving on. We call these months metas. So currently, as I'm recording this, we are in the 2nd year anniversary meta, which is the Visions of Coleus meta, right here, the Force right here. So characters who belong to the Visions of Coleus Force came out for this month, so therefore it's the Vision of Coleus meta. If I'm referring to like Space 2.0, back 2 years ago, 1 year ago, we had a month full of space units release. Okay, that was Space 1.0. We had another month that came out further down the line where a month of space units came out. That was Space 2.0, Wind 1.0, Wind 2.0. There were specific months that focused on very specific colors, typings. I have the spreadsheet that breaks it all down. You don't have access to this, but I'm just giving you an example. So the first month of release was the Dark meta, Wind meta, Fire, Light, And then we started getting, Earth 2.0, because it was the second full Earth month to release, the second full space month to release. And now that we've gotten to forces, which are specific teams, if you play Dokkan, it's categories. Each unit belongs to a certain type of force, and based on your protector and what team you're running, you want to build it around World of Fantasy or Heart of a Hero or Goddess of Destiny, because other units will belong to those same categories, like the Shuna belongs to Goddess of Destiny and World of Fantasy, and she's also on Ogre's Pride. So if you're running a protector that gives, let's see, like this Konosuba Rimuru, gives adventurer characters or Shizu's Will characters extra damage and extra stats, then you probably want to pair him with characters who are on adventurer or Shizu's Will. So like the, let's see, Rimuru right here on Shizu's Will. Charms refer to a specific type of equipment that you can only put on protection characters. They give additional stats and side effects when you use your protection skill. So this Lumi is getting an extra 726 HP, 146 attack, 292 defense. And also, every time I use Lumi's protection skill, it gives the ally with the highest attack 16% ult gauge. Versus down here, on Trainee, every time I use her, it heals the ally with the lowest HP by 24%. So charms are referring to protection unit specific equipment that give additional stats and additional effects. And meanwhile, while we're here talking about gear, it is literally just, gear, weapons, jackets, accessories. Very, very simple right there. Valor Cup refers to the AI PvP system that we have in game. You will go in real time against a bot, and you will fight them turn by turn and to see who wins in Valor Cup. There is normal Valor Cup, and there is ranked Valor Cup every single month, where you will fight in a series of progressively more difficult fights in order to get a high score, and then that places you against other people. Normal Valor Cup, you can see who you're playing against, you can choose which element unless you've done all the fights, and it's just, a very simplified version of PvP in this game. Bond is referring to the stats that you can gain by feeding your people. So Bond level 41 right here, all the way down to, like the new Jean, Bond level 20. You can increase this Bond by giving them food, by feeding your people, or by having Bond XP conversations with them when you're walking around town. You can talk to them and you can gain Bond XP this way by talking to a specific list of units that pop up right here. When I say, show me your box, or what does your box look like, depending on your box, blah, 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 it's referring to the units that you have available. This is my box, as I would say. So if you're asking, can I beat this stage? It's like, well, it depends on your box. It means it depends on the units that you personally currently have in your inventory that you can pull from, and if they have skills that would be, meet the requirements to beat a certain stage. A big, sweaty tryhard is a big fat whale. Someone who spends a lot of money on the game, who has a lot of maxed out units, as I do, and tries very hard in all of the ranking events to get top placement. When I talk about shards, it is referring to materials that you can use in place of dupes for characters. So if I wanted to level up Diablo to his 4th level, I would need a dupe of him, or I could use these rainbow shards to give him a dupe anyways. There are rainbow dupes for old 5-star characters, and EX characters have their own EX shards. So this Milim, I don't have a dupe of her, but I have 29 rainbow shards, or diamond shards, or whatever you want to call them. And I could give her, by using 15 of them, I could max her out. So when I talk about shards, it are these things. And finally, to close out the list, pity. Pity is bazaar points right here. So I am 150 pity into Blanc's banner. And at 200 pity, I could trade in those points for a guaranteed copy of her. Most gacha games have pity. Some of them don't. It's just dependent on how much you summon, how deep into the banner you go before the game says, all right, we'll throw you a bone. 150 pity is not great. 10 pity is really good if you can pull a unit. So you always want to be at low pity. And when people ask, how much pity did you have to go to, and you say 50, and people are going to tell you to fuck off because they had to go to 200 pity, like normally what I have to do to pull a unit. But that will do it for the terminology video. I know it's quite long for terminology, and I tried to go as fast as possible. But if there are other common terms that you think I missed, please put them in the comments and help out these newer players who are not familiar with the game and who are confused when I'm just rattling things off left and right, and they're like, what the fuck is he talking about? So put them down below if I missed any, but that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.